What's up, guys? Good morning. It's Coach Lou, live from the kitchen, freshly cleaned by wifey. So this morning, I figured, you know what? I don't need to be in the gym to show you this. I can just use our dirty laundry bin to demonstrate all the different ways that people are messing up with their deadlifts and their squats because they don't know how to actually to differentiate between the movements. Okay, so my client Kristen this morning, sent me her sumo deadlift video, and while it looked good, because of the fact that she's using less than 45-pound plate, in addition to the fact that to her height, when she was setting up, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm pretty tight right now, so it's gonna be hard for me to get down this way. So whereas I would set up for my sumo deadlift, or anybody would set up their sumo deadlift, right, and you're about right here, she was actually returning and essentially squatting back down, all right? So that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole exercise because it's not a squat, it's a hinge. So to kind of demonstrate and separate the differences between your squat and your hinge pattern, okay? First, I'll explain it, then I'll show it. So for your squat, your hips essentially are moving on a north and south axis, right? So the north, south, north, south. So everything is up, down, up, down. That's your squat, right? So when you're doing that, basically, what you want to do is remember that obviously with the quad, with your squats is a quad dominant exercise, okay? So this would be, squats, split squats, lunges, leg press, anything that requires the hip to flex and extend, right? Actually both of them require hip flexion and extension, but this is where it differentiates. Whereas a hinge, when you're going back, is more of a hamstring. It's more hamstring involved. The squat is all quads, and that's where you essentially. And I'm sure there's going to be some more better response or better definition of the difference between the squat and the hinge. But I've always learned it from a really simple aspect. Okay. When you're squatting, the goal is to go up and down, north and south, whereas when you're hinging, the goal is to go down and back and up and forward, right? So now, with the hip, right, you're going down and back, you're getting that good stretch in the hamstrings, and now you're coming up and forward again. That's one way to think about it, the up and down axis, and the down and back, or down and back, up and forward. Another way to differentiate it is, well, I guess I can use this one. When you're squatting, you're going to, because of the fact that your hips are going down, your knees are going to go forward, or your shin starts to move forward. Now, I'm not trying to talk about like an elevated heel squat versus a flat squat where one gets the tip, gets your shins more over, and the other one keeps your shins a little more vertical. What I'm trying to differentiate is you're going to feel actually a bit of a difference when you notice your shins as you're doing as you're doing the hinge pattern. Your shins don't move. You actually move from the knee. You're just moving essentially. How can I say this? You're keeping just a slight angle at the knee, and the majority of the movement is driving from the hips. Hence, it's a hip dominant exercise, right? Whereas with the squat, it's knee dominant, I guess you could say, because of the fact that you actually have to move more from the knee. Okay. Both of them work the glutes and the hamstrings. The difference is, and this is like one thing I'll say this. Yes, squats can build your glutes, ladies, gentlemen. The problem with only using squats is the fact that it is actually a quad dominant exercise. So when you get to parallel, right, they say like, oh, my glutes aren't firing on the way back up. That's actually inaccurate, because of the fact that once you break parallel, right, your glutes actually have to contract to get you back up, okay? So that's where you're getting your glute work, essentially, right? Like, in order for you to come back up, essentially you've got to contract the glutes. Your glutes have to fire to get you standing. So when people say, oh, my glutes are weak, they may, maybe if you're doing like a 1 rep max and getting the hips out, and I mean like getting yourself up all the way with that type of load, sure, your glutes might be a little weaker, and yeah, you might want to do some direct glute work. But the fact of the matter is that when you're really just bodybuilding, right? When your goal is aesthetics, and you're bumping 8 reps, maybe 6 reps, maybe even a 5 rep max, quite honestly, like, yeah, you need to hit the other aspects of the lower body as well to make it a more rounded squat, a more rounded strength aspect of your squat. So I did up and down, down and back. Deadlifts. All right, so now I'm gonna actually use. You can even practice this at home. You just get a laundry basket. That's what I'm using right now. I'm gonna show you the difference between a Romanian deadlift, a conventional deadlift, and a squat. Or actually, I can use this as a goblet squat. But you're gonna see the differences, and I want you to watch the hips followed by the quads and the hamstrings. Okay. So because it's already on the ground, I'll do a conventional deadlift. When you set up for your deadlift, the bar essentially would be around anywhere from like just under your kneecap if you have to elevate it to about mid-shin, which my laundry basket is about there. So what would you do? Feet stays directly under your hips. Now watch my hips. I'm not squatting down like this, right? The whole point of the hinge is to make it a hip-dominant exercise. So what are you going to do? You're essentially going to push the butt back while, now look, I still can't reach the bar, right? Or I can't reach the handles. So you push your butt down and back, and then, yeah, you're gonna have to get a slight drop, but the lower you go down, the further back you push those hips, right? And then 1, 2, okay? So think about it this way. If you have to go lower to reach the bar, for whatever reason, without making it more of a squat, when you have maximum lengthening of your hamstrings, then that's how you know you're in a really good hinge position, because your back you still have that slight angle, like a little slight upright aspect of your back and your chest, but down and back, okay? So you're here, boom. Now, the difference between the conventional deadlift and the Romanian deadlift, couple things. One, you're pulling from the floor here. So now you've got to essentially, you're already under tension with the hamstrings here, whereas here you're not, okay, from the standing position. Now what you're doing is you're lengthening, keeping it under tension, and then coming through. 1, 2, okay? So like, if you put a Romanian deadlift and a conventional deadlift in your program the same day, are you doing the same thing? You're doing the same pattern, relatively. You're doing a hinge pattern, but how you stimulate the muscle is completely different, okay? Whereas you're already lengthened here, and you're focused more on the contraction, especially in the glutes. Here, you're more so worried about the eccentric load or the lengthening of the hamstrings from this point coming back up, okay? So there's a difference. So, but still, watch the hips. Down and back, stretching the hamstrings, drive up. From the Romanian deadlift, you're pushing your butt back. Look at my shins. They're vertical, slight angle at the knee, but I've got a huge load right here in the glutes and in the hamstrings. Here, boom. And then we have the squat. I've been talking about getting that butt down and back, down and back. Now we just want to get down. We want to get our hips down as deep as we can, pain-free, and you're just working up and down, all right? So, boom. Goblet. Oh, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know what a goblet hold is, imagine this. Think of this as like a really wide dumbbell, but you would do this with a dumbbell or a kettlebell. You're basically palming it under, and then over. Palming it under, over. Boom. And then you're going to take your elbows, and you're going to wrap that weight. This is a goblet hold. But now watch the squat. Okay? Boom. 1. Okay? 2. Watch my hips. Watch my shins. 3. So I can even show you in this goblet hold the difference between the hinge and the squat. Your hinge would be something like this. Now watch my squat. Okay? Squat, hinge. Okay? So really, all you're doing, like I said, with the hinge, is you're getting your butt back, getting your hamstring stretched, whereas with the squat, you're sitting down and you're getting more obviously the lengthening and the stretching in the quads. Thus, it's a quad dominant exercise. So hopefully that helps. And just remember, if you are doing a deadlift or a variation of one, and you don't feel it primarily in the hamstrings, you're probably doing a squat. Thus, you need to focus on getting your butt back more. Now, the caveat here, and some people will say, like, again, I'm not here to argue semantics, I guess, when it comes to, like, your heel elevated squat versus a regular squat. Yes, is it a little more hip dominant if you're flat footed? Well, it depends on your joints. It depends on your limb length, your joints. Some people can literally, if they have a longer torso with a shorter femur, with a shorter leg bone, essentially, right? They can actually stay flat-footed and sit down into their squat like I would, but I have shorter legs with a longer torso. I've got a shorter torso with longer legs, so I've got to go heel elevated to get myself down. All right? It's when you're squatting, you just want to get as deep as you can, pain-free. So some people can do it don't need heels under their plates. They don't need plates under their heels. Some people do. I'm a person that does. Play with your squat and find out. And that's it. So if you have any questions, shoot me a message. Email me, Coach Louie at MajorGainsFitness.com. Shoot me a message on here, obviously. Or, that's it, lgthetrainer.com. Have a good morning. Have a great day, great week.